Why is Nissan called Nissan?
First month.
Why is Nissan called Nissan? Not
First
what is
month.
its status.
Oh.
The root of Nissan is Nes.
Ah.
In Hebrew, how do you say many miracles?
Nisim.
So why are you calling it Nissan? Should be your name. The month of Nisim, not the month of Nissan. What's up with Nissan? Anyone? We meet this month every year. It's the month of Nisim, not the month of Nissan. Where'd you get the noon from?
I heard that.
Let's see. Noon is the ending noon indicates something which is ongoing, something which is constant, which is all the time. As opposed to what we think that we advance in the calendar from year to year, we don't. We actually go in circles. And when you come back to the same time and place, let's say we go back to the month of Nisan, we go back to the same hashpa'ah that the month of Nisan had many years ago. For example, Rav Eliashiv says if one is sick, he should daven for refuah shleima, especially during the Yontif of Shavuos. Because on Shavuos we all stood there by the mountain, and everyone was healed from all the blemishes. Moshe Rabbeinu stopped stuttering, he was healed. Everybody was healed. So the same hashpa'ah that fell from above the month of Shavuos is the same hashpa'ah this year in Shavuos, the same hashpa'ah in the month of Chanukah, the month of Nisan, whatever it is. Mimele, the ending noon here indicates something which is ongoing. Don't think that there are great miracles in the month of Nisan back then, but it has nothing to do with us today. No, the same good flow from above, abundance of Nisim and Yeshuas are still here with us, and that's why it's called Nisan and not Nisim. And that's why Bab Mitzia Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, the Gemara talks about a Chamor Ravtzan, a donkey which crouches. We should say Chamor Rovetz. What does it mean, Ravtzan? Rashi's language over there is Sheragil Bechach. This is what he does for a living. He crouches. The Gemara talks about unloading and loading, helping your friend, unloading or loading the donkey. Chamor Ravtzan is called a Ravtzan with an ending noon to tell you this is what he does. This is ongoing. This is constant. That's what with an ending noon.
But
that's why we say.
That's the reason why the Democratic Party has. That's a simple.
Hopefully, that's not going to be an ongoing thing. That's why we say a person who's a lamdan. A lamdan is not a person that chaps everything in 2 seconds. He understands what other people take them 2 hours to understand. No, a person who's a lamdan is a person who sits and learns. Ragil bechach is the language of Rashi. He sits and learns all the time. He gets that title of he is being a lamdan. In Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Aleph, Chazal say, "Benisan nigalu, uvenisan asidin lehigael." During the month of Nisan, we were redeemed once, and during the month of Nisan, in Mitzvah Hashem, we will be redeemed again. It's such an encouraging statement for 30 days. What happens when you're in the Aleph Iyah? How disencouraging that? That's terrible. We're hopeless for at least 11 months. We cannot be redeemed. What does that mean? Benisan, we were redeemed. Uvenisan only can we be redeemed? Doesn't it go against one of the 13 principles of our faith? Ani ma'amin be'emunah shelema be'viyas HaMashiach when? B'chol yom she'yavo, af al pi, that he may delay, even though he doesn't come in the month of Nisan, I'll still believe him in the month of Iyar, and even in the middle of the summer in Tammuz. So what are you telling me? Uve Nisan atid l'Yisrael, only in Nisan can we be redeemed? So discouraging. What do we do with it? Comes the Kedushas Levi, Rabbi Yitzchak Mendishev, and says, you're reading it wrong. You're reading it as if it says, Be Nisan, at the date called Nisan, we can be redeemed. That's not what it says here. Nisan is an attribute of mercy, of compassion. The Gemara is saying, Ben Nisan, with the midah of mercy and rachamim, we were redeemed once before. Uve Nisan, and with, not at, with Uve Nisan, and with the same attribute of mercy and compassion, we will be redeemed again. And that can be even in the middle of the summer, even in the middle of Tammuz. As Benisan Nigalu, Uve Nisan, and with Rachamim and Chesed, we will be redeemed again. It can still be happening on this month during Nisan, but if Chalila it's not, it can still happen in Iyar, Sivan, and any other month.
On your birthday.
What's that?
On your birthday.
We don't have to wait for that. It's a long time from now. We all know that this Wednesday night is a very special night, protected night, guarded from all mazikim. Nafkamina lahalacha. We say, Leil Shimurim hu leYisrael. Leil Shimurim means it's a guarded night for generations. Ledoroseyim. So the halacha is, it's brought down, Magen Avraham, if you have 2 locks on your door, you only lock one. If you only have one, you don't lock at all. If it's a place where there's many thieves, not recommended, don't do it. But we want to show that we in fact believe it's a night which is guarded, so we reduce the way that we normally protect ourselves. Abba say, do you all remember what happened 21 years ago?
And the
Park Hotel in Netanya?
people were killed.
Massacre! How many people died?
Over 30, I think.
30. How many people got injured? I think 160.
100, yeah.
And that's the only time throughout our collective history that tragedies befell Klal Yisrael on Leil Seder? Many, many times. So how are you saying Leil Shimurim hu Hashem if exactly the opposite happened? They were sitting and doing Leil Seder, and some animals came in and shot and killed and massacred 30 guys. But that's not the only thing. There's so many blood libels. There's so many things that happen in Klal Yisrael. How can you say it's Leil Shimurim? It's a guarded night. And this is Chazal. A very, very surprising Mechilta, which is also Chazal, the same level, same weight, it's Tanaim. And the Chazal say, you know what Leil Shimurim hu leYisrael? Magid, shekol Yisrael tzrichin leishtamer bo. It's a very dangerous night. Exactly the opposite of what we always understood. Back then, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, everybody stay home. Stay home, because the damaging angel is going to go and is going to skip over those homes of the Jews, but if you're outside, it's dangerous. Says the Mechilta, Melamed, Magid, Shekol Yisrael tzrichin leishtamer bo. Just like back then it was a very dangerous night for the Jews if you were out, so too it's extremely dangerous every year. Leil Seder for Klal Yisrael. Exactly the opposite of our normal understanding, which the Magen Avraham brings la halacha that you have to reduce the way you lock yourself up in your house. So what is it? How does that work? Says the Chido, Dvash Lefi. It depends. Depends on you. The pasuk over there says, Pashas Boy, Leil Shimurim hu Hashem. And the end of the pasuk, at the end of the pasuk, Leil Shimurim leYisrael ledoroseyim. It depends. It's up to you. If you're doing this Leil Shimurim LaHashem, if you're really doing it Lishma, you're protected. Ledoroseyim, you're protected. But if it's Leil Shimurim LeYisrael, because you're doing it because you like the matzah, you like the festive environment around, you like the festivities, you like what you're doing, but you're not doing it L'Shem Shamayim, then it's an extremely dangerous night. Magid shekol Yisrael tzrichin leishtamer bo. Which gives a new perspective how we have to approach this night, which is a frightening thought. But in order to succeed, a wise man once said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So we need a chana, we need preparation. So I want to suggest something that I've been doing for many, many years. I told one of Gedolei Yisrael about it, and he got so excited. He's been doing it for many years as well with his grandchildren. This is something that works 100%, but you have to invest time and effort. My kids, a few weeks before Pesach, always come to me and say, "No, is the suitcase ready? The Leil Seder suitcase ready?" Suitcase. What suitcase? We have a deal made with my kids. The deal many years ago. They have to sit and prepare for Leil Seder and write chidushim and divrei Torah and things to say in the Seder night. In return, I go from store to store, from store to store, and get a lot of good things that I think that they're going to like, surprises, and put them in my Leil Seder suitcase. When they were little, it was very easy. You go to the dollar store, the kol b'shekel, very easy. Today, that doesn't fly. So you have to invest, and I invest time and energy and money. And they have no idea what goes on. The suitcase used to be small. Now, it's much bigger. And anytime someone opens their mouth,
What about the grandchildren?
anytime someone opens their mouth, the suitcase opens its mouth. And you never know what's coming. This serves a dual purpose.
Wow.
First of all, the weeks leading into Pesach, instead of roaming around and doing all kinds of things, they're sitting on the table and writing and filling out notebooks, complete notebooks. It's just unbelievable to see. Not less important, during Leila Seder itself, they can't leave the door. They can't leave the table for a second. They can't blink, because who knows? Who knows what I'm missing? Who knows what else is there in that Leila Seder suitcase? I don't want to miss it. FOMO, fear of missing out. It works unbelievable. Obviously now my children are a little older. We, evolve and we develop with the Leila Seder is a little change now, and the suitcase is a little change, but the idea remains. And one of Gedolei saw that I said this to, got so excited, so he did it, started doing it with his grandchildren, and it works, because you never know what your father or your grandfather put in that suitcase, and you don't want to miss. So they're sitting for hours and hours and learning Torah, and it's their Torah that allows this world to continue to exist the way we're familiar with it. Shabbos Daf Kuf Yutes, the Gemara says, and it's the Torah of little children that allows this world to continue to revolve and to be a steady place, not shaking. And it's their Torah, not the greatest Torah of the greatest tzaddikim in the world. The Gemara with it continues, and maybe we've shared this once, but I think it's important to say this again. The Gemara says, Rav Papa, after hearing this statement, that it's the Torah of little children that keeps this world around, says Rav Papa to Abaye, Didi ve'didach mai, what about our Torah? We're the greatest Amoraim. What about our Torah? Isn't it sufficient to allow this world to continue? And Abaye says no. Eino doime, hevel sheyesh bochet, lehevel she'en bochet. It's not the same. Torah that is learned from a mouth that never sinned, and kids under 13 never sin. It's not the same to Torah that comes out of the mouth that a person of, you're a greatest Amoira, you're right, you're Rav Papa, but, maybe once upon a time you did something, and that Torah is not the same as the Torah that comes out of a pure, clean mouth of a kid under 13. And that Gemara, Rabbi Aaron Kotler said an amazing insight. And Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zoynfeld said an even more amazing insight. Rabbi Aaron Kotler said, wait a second, that's unbelievable. These kids under 13 are not even obligated to learn Torah. They're not obligated to any mitzvahs. And yet, it's their Torah that allows this world to continue the way we're familiar with it. That's unbelievable. But more than that, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonfeld added, but Papa and Abaye, how far are we from them? Light years away. Papa and Abaye, greatest of life. But guess what? Our children today, under 13, are the same children like in the time of Papa and Abaye. They're the same pure, sinless kids with neshamos which are 100% clean. And therefore, it's so encouraging to push them to go and learn Torah, because it's their Torah that allows the world to continue the way we're familiar with it, and not our Torah. So anything that we can do to cause them to sit and learn, like that Leila said, the suitcase, is a tremendous, tremendous thing for the benefit of us, but Klal Yisrael and the world entire. And therefore, I strongly recommend that if you can, say it, do it yourself, say it to your children. It works, and it works amazingly. Because it's all about the children, and because really, if you think about it, you only have about 2.5 hours the whole Leila Seder. You come back home from shul, you start the Seder, you have to say the Haggadah, you eat. So how much time is left for saying things? In fact, my kids usually fill up so much notebooks that there's left over for, otherwise, we finish at 2:30, 2:45, but there's not enough time. So I said to them, don't worry, the suitcase will be here tomorrow for the Suda and Yom Tov. Don't worry, it's not going to go in, you'll be able to continue. But how much time do you really have at night? 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and therefore, we should not waste that time on votes, on gimatriot. This is a special night, a very propitious time, an auspicious time for instilling emuna. Somehow, our hearts are open to absorb emuna. And therefore, votes and gimatriot are great for the following day, for Chol HaMoed, any time of the year. But Leila Seder should be about the miracles, the nisim and niflaos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did to Klal Yisrael, and we should not waste it as if, and things which are not related to emuna, because our hearts and the hearts of our children are open that night to absorb all that they can be about emuna and get us to a stronger level, stronger madrega. And therefore it's extremely important to focus and concentrate dafka on that. Let's prepare by sharing a few riddles for Leila Seder. Riddle number 1. Can it be, very, very strange riddle. Can it be that you eat Esther Hamalka and your yoitze, your obligation to eat maror on Pesach? Ever heard such a strange riddle? Let's repeat. Can it be that you eat Esther Hamalka and with that you just fulfilled your obligation to eat maror? Leila Seder. You think I have still jet lag from my trip? I don't. What do you say, Rabbi Isaac? By doing so, you just were yoitze. You fulfilled your obligation to eat maror on Leil HaSeder. How can that be? Mishnah in Masechet Pesachim. You heard the question? We have a riddle. How can it be that you eat Esther Hamalka and with that you're yoitze, your obligation to eat maror on Leil HaSeder? Mishnah and Pesach in Perek Vav Mishnah Beis, we learn about the 5 different herbs that can be used for maror. Tamcha, chalchavina, 5 different things. What's chalchavina? You familiar with chalchavina? I went to best. They don't have any chalchavina. What's chalchavina? What's chalchavina? Says the Melech Shlomo. Who's the Melech Shlomo in the Mishnah? Arav Adani from Yemen, I think 500 years ago. He says chalchavina is a bitter herb that we have here in Yemen that we call Esther Hamalka. Mimele, if you eat Esther Hamalka, which is chalchavina, which is one of the 5 things you're allowed to eat for maror, you'll be yoitze your obligation to eat maror on Leil HaSeder. Another riddle for Leil HaSeder.
What country was from?
Yemen. Arav Adani, Leches Shloimo and the Mishnah. One of the main mefarshim of the Mishnah. 4 places in Eretz Yisrael that appear in the Haggadah Shel Pesach. Bnei the Tanaim were sitting in Bnei Brak and having, that's the easy one, I knew you were going to get it. Fine. What are the other 3? One is also very easy. Uvenei Yerushalayim Miraculous. Yerushalayim is mentioned in the Haggadah. Good. But now let's see who getting the other 2. Mitzrayim is not in Eretz Yisrael. I want 4 places in Eretz Yisrael. What do you say, Rabbi Isai? One about, I think 35 minutes south of here. Beersheba is mentioned in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, maybe in your version. I don't think it's in mine. And Beersheba is a little further away, no? Depends how you try. Which one? Hebron is mentioned there? In what part of the Haggadah? Maybe in the English version. What do you say, Rabbi Isai? We all say it not only every single year, we say it much more often. In benching, which is in the Haggadah. V'tolichenu. Where? V'tolichenu what? The next word? Komemius. What's that? That's a kibbutz, about 35 minutes down south from here. They make the best matzahs. You know, they have a great, Komemiut? Yeah. Komemiut, the best matzahs. Fine. That's the 3rd one. What's the 4th? Komemiut. V'tolichenu komemiut. That's him. What's the 4th place? Not in mention. In Hallel. Up north. Rosh Pina! In Hallel. And that's the 4th place. Great. At the end of the Seder, you shouldn't eat anything, right? Why? Because you want to leave over the taste of the afikomen, of the matzah, of the mitzvah in our mouth. Is there any time else during the year that we want to do that? To eat the matzah or bread, whatever you eat. Sfardim say mizonis al matzah. Any other time throughout the year that you want to leave over the taste of bread in your mouth, and therefore that should be the last thing you eat? Not on Leil HaSeder. Other times throughout the year. Sheva Brachos. What's the source to that?
It's the last thing you do with the Shabbat.
Is there a source that I should have the bread as the last thing in the meal? To have?
I'm thinking, what do you have? Taste the wine.
What do you say? What do you say? Very surprising answer. Every single time you eat bread. Mishnah Bura. Kuf Samech Zayin. Seif Tzadi Zayin. He brings in the Shloach Kodosh. That anytime you eat bread or matzah, if you're Ashkenazi and you mention it, you should take from the slice that you ate at the beginning that you said the bracha over, that should be the last thing in your meal, so you should have the taste of the piece of bread that you had the blessing over as the last thing in your mouth. It's a Mishnah Bura. Applies every single time we eat bread. Kuf Samech Zayin in Mishnah Bura. Seif Kotten Tzadi Zayin. It's not a complete obligation. It's a nice thing to do, a good thing to do. It's in the Shloach Kodosh. Shloach Kodosh. So from riddles, let's move to a little more serious question. You know, today there is the Riddle plague. I think some doctors prescribe it faster than they prescribe Tylenol, Advil, and Acamol. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. But let's talk about a family that really needs it. There are two boys, one under bar mitzvah, one over bar mitzvah that use it. Are you all familiar with Riddle? Kids who have ADHD, you want to slow them down a little. Great, it works. The problem is, it's an appetite suppressant. And it lasts for about 8 hours. Some people just can't eat for 8 hours. Comes a father and asks, if I'll give my kids the Riddle that they really need, they won't be able to eat. There's a few mitzvahs of eating tonight. Matzah, maror, wine. But I will be able to do the mitzvah of V'yigadata lebincha. If I won't give them, so I won't be able to do the V'yigadata, but they'll be able to do the 3 mitzvahs of matzah, maror, and wine. One kid is over bar mitzvah, one kid is under bar mitzvah. What do you say, Rabbi Yisrael? Should he give his kids the pill or not? What do you say?
Why don't you go for any medicine that
I would always say no.
Yeah, but this is to allow them to concentrate, to be able to concentrate. Otherwise, it's very difficult for them to concentrate. That's what this is given. So this will allow him to do another mitzvah called V'yigadata lebincha. How do we look at this?
So in fact, giving it to them, it's not going to be a Seder anyway.
Without giving it to them.
the other siblings.
The other siblings, his wife, himself, maybe we'll send them to their room, send them to the yard. What's that?
The over bar mitzvah,
You don't give. In order to be able to eat, because eating is more important than V'yigadata.
Is it right? It's the both the Raisa.
They're both D'oraisa.
He also got
What's both D'oraisa? What's in the eating? What in the eating? What is D'oraisa? The matzah, maror and wine, the rabbanon. So you have a D'oraisa and 2 rabbanons, 3,
maybe that's stronger.
as opposed to V'yigadata, which is 1. So you're saying V'yigadata is more. You're saying eating is more important
The overall mitzvah.
for the over mitzvah. What about the younger kid? What mitzvah is his chiyuv? V'yigadata is the father's mitzvah. And what about eating when the kid is eating and he's under mitzvah? It's only chinuch the rabbanon.
They got to be from
So V'yigadata is therefore to the kid under mitzvah, you should give the pill. We agree? We all agree? Does it make a difference which mitzvah comes first? What comes first? V'yigadata. Is that a consideration? Or you're only looking at the total number of mitzvahs and their severity? There's a Mishnah Bura in Siman Sadi. He brings the famous Radbaz. Radbaz made a lot of noise in the world. Radbaz, 450 years ago. The Radbaz is talking about a person who is in jail. And the minister comes and says to him, you know what? Take a day off. You choose which one. So Radbaz asks, what day should he take? Should he take today, a regular Monday afternoon? Or should he wait for a heavy duty day, for Yom Kippur or something like that he'll be able to do a lot of mitzvahs with the tzibur? What's more important? Says the Radbaz, go out today. So much so that the Radbaz says, if the doctor comes to a person and says, you're not allowed to fast twice in a week and a half, you're not allowed to. There's Tzom Gedalia and Yom Kippur. What would we all say? Yom Kippur, D'oraisa, what are you talking about? Says the Radbaz, Tzom Gedalia. D'oraisa is coming in the next week, Yom Kippur. Says the Radbaz, no. Today you can fast, fast. In a week and a half, if they tell you you're not allowed to fast, you're be'onis. Onis, Rahmana Patri. Whatever comes first your way is something you have to do now. You can't skip over a mitzvah and say, sorry, there's something more important than you. Even though Tzom Gedalia is only, the Rabbanon, it's B'divrei Kabbalah, it's a less severity than the Oraisa and the Yom Kippur. And therefore, if the Higadita comes first, what should we do? Should take the pill. Who cares about the number of mitzvahs? Who cares about the level of mitzvahs that I'm supposed to do? Who cares? According to this Radbaz, the first thing, that's the real true meaning of mitzvah haba leyadcha, mitzvah that comes your way, seize the opportunity. Al tachmitzena. But not everybody agrees with the Radbaz. The Chacham Tzvi challenges this Radbaz. From a Gemara in Menachos Memtes Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, what if there's a shortage of korbanos in Beis HaMikdash? It's Shabbos today, and we have to bring a korban musaf of Shabbos. But tomorrow morning, we're going to have to bring a korban tamid. What should we do? Korban tamid is something which is tadir. It happens every single day. Tadir v'she'eno tadir. Tadir koidim. But korban musaf of Shabbos is more holy. So really, it's a question of tadir and mekudash. What comes first? Ask the Chacham Tzvi, why does the Gemara say tadir and mekudash? The Gemara should say it's a no-brainer. The first mitzvah that comes your way, you have a korban musaf of Shabbos, you have to do it today. I don't care if it's tadir or it's mekudash the next one. It's irrelevant. Why does the Gemara ask tadir or mekudash what comes first? Because it's not right what you're saying, the Radbaz, that the first mitzvah. No, we have to analyze which has a greater priority. And therefore the Chacham Tzvi doesn't like this, what the Radbaz is saying, but Lekat HaKemach says, but wait a second, maybe there's a chiluk. The Radbaz is talking about an individual. An individual who has an opportunity to do a mitzvah should do it today. Who said you're going to be here tomorrow? Who said you're going to even live tomorrow? But a tzibur doesn't die. And therefore the Gemara talks about a korban for the entire tzibur. We're not afraid the tzibur is going to go away, the tzibur is going to perish. That we're not afraid of. And maybe that's where the Gemara in Menachos wants to know what's more important, tadir or mekudash. But the Radbaz was talking about an individual. Or perhaps about korban tamid it says, tishmeru lehakriv li b'moyadum. What is it, tishmeru? Tishmeru means the korban requires bedika, bikur, 4 days before. So don't tell me the korban tamid of tomorrow, Sunday morning, starts tomorrow morning. This mitzvah already started before. So it's the same level. Mimele, we're comparing sort of the same level of mitzvah, and that's why the Gemara wanted to know which one comes first. Or perhaps we can say, based on the Gemara Sanhedrin, in Pesachim Tzadi Aleph Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, for korban Pesach you have to be registered. You can't just join in the last second. You have to be registered ahead of time. If a person is in jail and they promise they will release him, you cannot have him register on the korban. Why? Who says they're actually going to follow through? The goyim are holding him. You think they're going to necessarily be? We promised, but we didn't promise to keep our promise. You know, the classic politician. I promised, but I didn't promise to keep my word. They're not necessarily going to release him, and therefore you can't join him. So that's why the Radbaz was saying to the person in jail, go the first opportunity. Maybe the minister is going to change his mind and tomorrow he'll say, you know what, remember we promised you a day off? Nah, we changed that. You have the first opportunity, go out. That doesn't necessarily allow us to rely on that, and maybe that's why the Radbaz was saying what he's saying. So Lemaise, I think that in our question, the kid under mitzvah should not take the pill. Why? Because it's a Rambam. Rambam in Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah Perek Zayin Halacha Beis, the Rambam says, how do you fulfill this obligation? Says the Rambam, depends to whom. If it's a little kid, all you do is point to your slave. The Rambam is talking 800 years ago when they were slaves. You point to the slave and say, you see this? We used to be just like him once upon a time. If this is all the kid can observe, that's it. You fulfill the obligation. As the kid develops and progresses, you develop with him, and you explain more, and you explain, and you expand on that. But if that's all that the kid can understand and absorb now, that's all you say. So don't give him the pill. Say the minimal amount that he is able to concentrate with, sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences, that's it. And you're yoytze the mitzvah. And then he'll be able to eat. And the same will apply to the kid above the mitzvah. At this point, he can't concentrate? Fine. Say the minimal amount that he can concentrate. You are yoytze the mitzvah of the higadita. He will be able to be yoytze the mitzvah of eating the matzah, the maru, and the wine. And everything is fine. But I think the make sure you say to Rabban Gamliel Haya Omer. Anyone who didn't say these three things, not Yotzei. The minimal thing to say is to point to the slave that you have in your backyard and say, you see this guy? We were once upon a time just like him, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim. That's it. But I think the best Eitzah for this question is to give him the pill 6.5 hours before Leil Seder starts. We said it about 8 hours that it has this, it's an appetite suppressant. Great. So for 6.5 hours, they won't have an appetite. That's okay. An hour and a half, when the Leil Seder starts, they'll be able to concentrate with you and tell him all the story of the Egyptian time. And after 8 hours, when the pill's effect dissolves, now they can eat the matzah, the maror, and the wine. And this way, lichoyla, we cover all bases.
Really? For the rest of the 6 hours, they'll take care of fixing the whole house.
Yeah, that's a side benefit. The Zohar HaKodesh.
The difference in the level of the Doraisa of the Gat and Mitzvah versus Achilas Matzah and Achilas Matzah isn't asay.
If it's the kid under the bar mitzvah, it's your mitzvah chinuch to feed him. It's your mitzvah called vehigaleta, which is placed on your shoulders that you have to fulfill. So it's a dioraisa, and it's the chinuch is probably only the rabbanon. The Zohar HaKodesh, Shmois, Daf Pei Hei Amud Beis, says Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned 50 times in the Torah. Tikuni Azor Daf Chav Bet says, a remez to that, the pasuk in Shmos says, Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayifen ko v'cho. Moshe looked to both sides. Chazal tell us at that time, the Zohar says he was saying, Kriyat Shema. Shema, Israel, Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, 25 letters. Ko is Kaf Hey. How much is that? 25. Vayifen ko v'cho. 25 and 25, because we say Shema Yisrael in the morning and in the evening, that's 50, because 50 times Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah. The Zohar gives an unbelievable remez in
Between Shema and
Shema is mentioned. We say Shema twice every day. Shema Yisrael, Shema Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that has 25 letters. We say it twice, it's 50. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying then. And that's the kesher to Yetzias Mitzrayim. This starts the process of Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's where it all starts. And we left Mitzrayim, and the Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah 50 times. It's alluded to by Vayifen Ko Vacho, 25, and it's Ko Vacho is actually referring to Shema Yisrael, which we say twice a day, 50. Comes the Zohar again, it says another remez in Daf Reish Samech Aleph in Bereshis. There's a pasuk in Micha, Perek Zayin, the pasuk says, Ki meitzescha me'eretz Mitzrayim, as the days I took you out of Mitzrayim and I showed you unbelievable miracles, I will show you those miracles again. Niflaot, cut that word in two. Nun plaos, 50 miracles. Why? Because Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah 50 times. Rabbeinu B'chaya says, this is alluded to also in a pasuk in Parashat B'Shalach, V'chamushim alu bnei Yisrael me'eret Mitzrayim. V'chamushim, armed, Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim. It really should say Vachamushim Chet Mem Vav Shin. Chamushim. The Torah doesn't write the Vav. So how do we read it? Vachamishim Alu Bnei Yisrael, because Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah 50 times. And they had 50 levels that they ascended to until Shavuos when they received the Torah, 50 days. Vachamishim Alu, in other words, 50 aliyot. 50 times that they moved up higher and higher to a level higher than they were before is mentioned in the Torah. It says as Fasemis, they had 50 geulos. They went from 49 levels of impurity and filth to almost the 50th level of kedusha and tahara and bina, and that's the 50 geulos which is mentioned here in the Zohar. 50 times Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah. 50 gates of Tumah corresponding to the 50 gates of wisdom. They had 50 levels that they moved up. Comes Reb Chaim Palachi and asks, the root of heresy in the world was in Mitzrayim. What did Paul say? The root of heresy, kfirah. What did Paul say? Mi Hashem asher yishma bekolo. Mi, mem yud, 50. The 50 gates of heresy were in Mitzrayim. And that's what we mean when we say in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, that if we would not be redeemed from Mitzrayim, we would still be subjected, we would still be slaves to power. How is that possible? Paro would die a long time ago. What do you mean? We would still be subjected to Paro? Yes, we would still be subjected to the machshavos of heresy that ruled over Mitzrayim and over the entire world. But Baruch Hashem, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim and we're no longer subjected to the heresy in Mitzrayim. That's what we say in the Haggadah. V'chol hamarbe lesaper b'yetzias Mitzrayim v'chol kaf lamed 50. In other words, kol hamarbe lesaper, not lesaper, lispor, count, and you will see that there are 50 times that Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah. And if you do that, harei zeh, meshubach, you are praiseworthy. So you count that 50 times it's mentioned in the Torah, 50 times we moved up to higher levels, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us 50 levels of Tumah all the way to 50 levels of Tumah. And that's why the Haggadah of Pesach is broken up to 50 paragraphs. Avadim Ayinu Manishtara Rabban Gamliel. 50 paragraphs that the Baal Haggadah wrote the Haggadah corresponding to the 50 times Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah. And that's why, if you look at the Haggadah, it's really circled around 2-3 psukim in Parshas Kisavo. Very strange. When you go and you bring Bikurim, you say Bidui, and you say the psukim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim, Baruch Hashem, thank you very much, you brought to Eretz Yisrael. And the Baal Haggadah took those 2-3 psukim at the end of Kisavo, instead of taking psukim from Sefer Shemois. There's so many psukim in Parshas Shemois, Vayera, Bo B'Shalach, detailing everything that happened. So why go to Kitavo at Dvarim when you can go to Shmot? Because the 50th time that Yetzias Mitzrayim is mentioned in the Torah is Parshas Bikurim, and that's the Shevach that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim and brought us to Eretz Yisrael. I think this is just magnificent. What's the only small technical problem with everything that I said until now? It's not true. It's not 50 times that it appears in the Torah. You know how many times? 90! Not even close. If you're 49, 51, we'll say with a koiler, gematria, I don't know. Not even close. 50 times, 90 times. You're telling me 50? That's all. 90 times. You know who asked this question? The Gaon Mevina. Tikkunei HaZohar Lamed Gimel. The Gaon of Vilna says it's not true. It's 90 times. The Gaon explains what the Zohar counts as 50 is the 25 times Hashem said to Moshe, say it to the people. And the 25 times Moshe in fact said it to the people. That's what the Zohar counts 50 times. The Remak, Sefer Shefa Tal, from the Remak's disciple, brings that the Remak said differently. These are the 50 times that it's the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that took us out of Mitzrayim. It's mentioned 90 times in the Torah, it says Mitzrayim, but 40 times are not the praise necessarily. 50 of them correspond to the praise of Yetzias Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shevach that took us out of Mitzrayim, and that's what the Zohar counts. And based on that he explains, Mitzvah aleinu lesaper b'Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Haggadah said it's a mitzvah to recount the story. Don't read it lesaper. Mitzvah aleinu lispor, to count how many times. Chol hamar lesaper, chol hamar lispor. If somebody comes to you and says, "Call 50, ma pitom, much more." Hamar lispor, I counted there's much more than 50 in the Torah. There's 90. You tell him no. Afata emer lo harei zeh meshubach. We're only counting the shevach of Ribono Shel Olam that took us out of Mitzrayim, and that's the 50 the Zohar counts. Aboy said a question that comes back every single year. Kol dichfin yeisei veyeichol. Such a strange thing to say. So weird. You invite anyone who wants to come to join you. Really. You come home, close all the doors, close the windows. Kol dichfin yeisei veyeichol. What a tzaddik, what a tzaddik. If you really want guests, does it make more sense to close the door of the shul before everybody leaves and say, Rabbi Sai, we have plenty of food. Come over, anyone who wants. No, but you say it when you're back home, when no one can hear. Come on, who are you kidding? What's the benefit of doing this? More than that. You know what? Guess what? Guess what? Once, maybe this year, you're going to come home and say, Kol dichfin yeisei veyeichol. You're a big tzaddik, you're not inviting anybody. And suddenly, somebody knocks on the door. Okay. You go to the door, say, Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom. I'm so sorry, I overheard you saying that you're really inviting people. Is this really so? Of course. You look at your Rebbetzin, you have a guest. Bring him in. Excellent. So he says, no, really, I just don't have where to eat tonight. Says, come on in. We'd love to do the mitzvah. He says, no, are you serious? And you say yes. At that point, this guy looks to the left and says, guys, he's really serious. Come. And 75 guys storm into your living room. Now, what are you going to do now? You don't have food to feed 75 extra guests. You don't even have 75 chairs in your living room. So what exactly are you planning to do? So what were you kidding when you say, Kol dirfin yiseh v'yeichel?
The tzedakah you've given me to eat for Pesach.
Why are you saying now, anyone who's hungry, please come in? What are you going to do when they come in?
It's 300 a kilo.
What's that?
So you didn't have a chance to prepare for that.
So why are you saying such a thing? And what if they come? What are you going to do? Famous question. Never really sat well with me the answers until I found Sam Soifer. Sam Soifer says an unbelievable thing. He says the truth is you cannot say it in shul. Because what if 100 people come, you don't have enough food to feed them. But when you go home and you start saying Haggadah, and you start recounting the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took you out of Egypt, your house becomes a place where it's Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, and your house becomes like Beis HaMikdash. And what happens in Beit HaMikdash? Muat Machzik Es HaMerubeh. Somehow, one of the miracles mentioned in Pirkei Avos, millions of people came into Yerushalayim, and no one ever said, too crowded, I can't move. There was room for everyone. Achilas Kodshim. Oichel me'at u'misbarech b'me'av. You eat very little, and somehow you become satiated. When you start telling the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, a shefa, abundance from above, comes down to your house, and if those 75 guys will come, they will have enough to eat. It happens in a miraculous way, just like Klal Yisrael came out of Egypt, and until the man started falling on Yud Chet Be'iyar, Lag BaOmer, a month and a half later, the little that they brought with them from Mitzrayim was enough for 61 meals. Because when you tell the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends Shefa, just like in Melachim Bey, Perek Daled. Elisha Hanavi says to Gehazi, give to the people. He says, what do you mean? There's 100 people here, it's not going to be enough. And Elisha Hanavi says, give to them and there will be plenty, and there was left over. Because when you do this, your house becomes a house, and Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, it becomes like a Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, technically speaking, you can't even say it even if you want to in shul. It's not going to do anything. But when you start saying Haggadah, it works, and you can say it. If those people are going to knock on the door, let them in. And you're going to see an unbelievable miracle in all the food that you have. If this is not enough, you know, Ashkenazim may have the minhag to wear a kittel, the white garment that we wear on Yom Kippur. We normally wear it on Leil Seder as well. Why? So some say, well, that's the only garment that I know for sure doesn't have any chametz. The only time else that you wear it is on Yom Kippur, so I know there's no chametz there. But the Maharal Miprag says, when you start doing the avodah of Leil Seder, you become like a Kohen Gadol lifnai velifnim, in Kodesh HaKodashim. So now your house turned into a Beis HaMikdash. You are like the Kohen Gadol lifnai velifnim, and if that's not enough, the Zohar HaKodesh in Parshas Boy Daf Mem Amud Beis says, and this is printed in many of the Haggadahs, that when we say the Haggadah B'simcha, HaKodesh Baruch Hu is B'simcha up there, and he says to the Pamalia delay, to the entire, all the angels, go down and see how my children are praising me and telling the stories of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Nisim v'Niflaos. And the entire Pamalia delay, all the angels go down to your house. So now, look at this. Your house turned into a Beis HaMikdash. You are like a Kohen Gadol, and all the angels around, surrounding you and listening to the story. If one is aware of these three things, it's impossible to get upset during Leil Seder. Impossible. Because if you do, instead of making your house a Beis HaMikdash, it's a Beis HaMikdash to avoid a Zoh, Chas v'Shalom. Because Shabbos Daf Kufei, the Gemara says, Kol HaKoyes, anyone who gets angry, Ke'ilu Oived Avodah Zarah, Chas v'Shalom. All the angels are going to run away, but wants to be in the house of Avodah Zarah. And therefore, no matter what your kids or grandchildren do, even if they left the shoes in the middle of the room, even if the place is a mess, they yell and they throw things, it doesn't make a difference. The house of Beis HaMikdash, you're a Kohen Gadol. And all the angels around coming to hear how you are telling the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So no matter what, can't be any anger in this night. In fact, it's unbelievable. Bnei Yisrael, but not in Bnei Yisrael. He wrote another sefer called Derech Pikudecha, and that's a very chashuv sefer. Mitzvah Yud Dalet in Parshas Boy. And in Sefer Derech Pikudecha, he goes through the 613 mitzvahs and he breaks them apart to different parts. Dibur, Maaseh, Machshava. And he says a frightening thought over there. Efshar, could be possible, that one who gets upset is not able to eat from Korban Pesach. Why? Because if the Torah says, Kol ben nechar lo yoichal bo, a goy is not allowed to have any of the Korban Pesach, right? And since we say that anyone who gets angry is like an idol worshiper, so it could be that he says that they're not allowed to give to a person who gets angry Korban Pesach, and he continues and says, and it could be that he's not allowed to eat from afikoyman today in our times. He leaves it with a tzarich iyun, question mark. But just to entertain such a thought is a frightening thing, and therefore chas v'shalom, no matter what, leave anger away. It doesn't have any entry into your house. I think that from Yetzias Mitzrayim we could all get chizuk in emunah. Think about it. Who was the Mashiach? His name was Moshe Rabbeinu. When was he selected for the job? How old was he? 80? And until then he had no idea that he's the Mashiach. Until then no one around knew that he's the Mashiach. So it could be that the Mashiach is right here with us today. He's 7 years old, he's 15 years old, he's 78 years old, or 120, I don't know. But you see from the fact that no one knew, including Moshe himself. And in fact he said, no, me? Not me, anyone else will be better. Take Aaron, take anyone else. He had no idea. And therefore when we say what we sang before, I will wait for him. It could be that he's already here, but he's just not aware of it. We are not aware of it. But this should give us a tremendous chizuk for Yetzias Mitzrayim. From the three matzahs that we have, we split the middle one. Why dafka the middle one? The three matzahs correspond to Kohen Levi Yisrael is one way. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Shabbos daf pei tet amud beis. Amazing, mice. The Gemara says, Le'asid lo, HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to Avraham Avinu and says, Banecha chat'u li, your sons have sinned to me. And Avraham says, what? Yimachu al kedusha shemecha. Let them be erased on the sanctity of your name. The same Avraham Avinu that davened for the people in Sodom is saying Yimachu. The Maharsha explains Yimachu, let the sins be erased, and then it will be a Kiddush Hashem. But the Pashtus HaGemara, that's not what it says. Yimachu, let them be eradicated, and there will be a sanctification of your name. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, not getting any help from the grandfather here, I'll go to the grandson. Yaakov, Banecha chat'uli. Same thing. Yaakov responds, same way. Yimachu al kedusha shemecha. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Lo b'sabei ta'ama v'lo b'da'adek yetza. The grandfather is not helping me. The grandson is not helping me. You know what? I'm going to Yitzchak. Yitzchak, Banecha chat'uli. And Yitzchak responds, what did you say? Banecha? You called them my sons? Didn't you say, after they said Naaseh and Ishma, you said, B'ni b'choyri Yisrael, you called Klal Yisrael your sons. Why are you saying it's my sons? And more than that, let's do some math. Yemesh noseinu b'hem. So a person lives for 7 years. Out of that, you don't punish HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Beis Din Shemala up to the age of 20. So we're only talking about 50 years. Out of those 50 years, 25 years are nighttime. A person doesn't sin when he sleeps. So we're only talking about 25 years. Out of those 25 years, a person eats, he davens, he goes to the bathroom, he doesn't sin then. So we're only talking about 12 and a half years. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, can't you tolerate 12 and a half years? And if you can't, palga alai u palga Allah. Half on me and half on you. 6.25 years, you can't tolerate that, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts. Comes out that Yitzchak was me'oirer, rachmei shamayim, by splitting the din. He took the 70, took it as 50, 25, 12 and a half, 6.25. He was splitting the din, and he was me'oirer, rachmei shamayim. So we do the same. We take the middle matzah, which corresponds to Yitzchak, and we split it in two, and we hopefully are me'oirer, rachmei shamayim, that in Mitzvah Hashem we should be redeemed as well. But comes out of this a tremendous observation. This is a pressure time. in any house, a wife yells, "Get out of here! Don't touch this! Don't touch this!" During this time, we have to be me'oyer rachmei, not only rachmei shamayim, but our only rachmei. But during this time, you see from here, we have to be like Yitzchak. Palga alai upalga alach. Half on me and half on you, and we have to participate, and we have to help, and we have to lend a shoulder and an arm to the other party, to the wife. You see from Yitzchak, palga alai palga alach. We share the responsibility, and the men have to help. Does it say anywhere in the Torah that men have to help? We have a rule. Everything is alluded to in the Torah. Where did it say in the Torah that men have to help for preparation of Pesach? Basha's book. The Basha says, "Ve'avadeta et ha'avoda hazot b'chodesh hazeh." Zot is zachar or nekeva? Nekeva. B'chodesh hazeh. Zeh is what's going on here? Be consistent. You should work ha'avoda hazot, which is normally a woman's job, cleaning and preparing and cooking. Normally, it's the woman's job. Et ha'avoda hazot, says the Torah, b'chodesh hazeh, during this month of Nissan, you have to share the load and you have to do some of the avoda, and maybe that's a zeicher to what they did to us in Mitzrayim, because the Gemara in Suitcase says that they used to give the men women's jobs, and they used to give the women the job of the men. That was part of the affliction. So it comes out of the Torah that men have to participate as well. And when you do that, not only do you walk in Yitzchak Avinu's ways, palga alai, palga alach, half on me, half on you, you also commemorate the shi'abud in Mitzrayim, and we have to help. So as we said, we need some patience. We need patience because in every house, it's challenging days. Aboy say a question. Where do we see in the Torah that you have to have patience? Savlanus min haTorah minayin. Where do you see savlanut in the Torah? Anywhere Torah discusses being patient? Yitzhak. Okay, good. Anything more direct that says, "Thou shalt be patient"? Anyway, the Ten Commandments? No. Anywhere else? Okay, listen to this, change your life forever. A few weeks ago, Pashat Kisisa, Klal Yisrael sinned the golden calf. Vayar ha'am ki boishesh Moshe lavo. Moshe is delaying. People saw, they looked up, he's not here. I guess he's never coming back. Okay, let's run and do the Egel HaZahav. The Gemara in Shabbos, Peitet Amud Aleph says, Al tikrei boishesh, don't read it the word boishesh, rather, ba-shesh. Came the 6th hour on the 40th day, and they saw Moshe is not coming back. They said, he's never coming back. And they ran to do the Egel. What's so special about the 6th hour and the 40th day? Comes the Meir Einei Chachamim and does this remarkable calculation. Pilei play. Klal Yisrael knew that Moshe Rabbeinu went upstairs to learn Torah with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Torah shebichtav. Torah shebe'apeh wasn't given yet. It's going to be given with the second set of tablets. So if we can figure out how long it takes to learn the entire Torah, that's what he went to do upstairs, and that time elapses, and Moshe is still not here, apparently he's not coming back. How long does it take to learn the entire Torah? How do we even approach this type of a question? Let's see. In Medrash Talpios it says there are 320,674 letters in the Torah. 320,674. So if we can figure out how fast it takes us to learn those letters, we're good. How do you do that? Brachos Daf Zayin, we learned Bilam's claim to fame. He knew how to curse exactly at the second the Kodesh Baruch Hu was angry. Ask the Tosfos, what is going to help? If it's 1 second that Kodesh Baruch Hu gets angry, what can you say in 1 second? Tosfos bring two terutzim. Either once you start cursing at the time Kodesh Baruch Hu is upset, it works and you can continue after, or you can say a word, 3 letters. Kalem, erase them, eradicate them, destroy them. Chaf, Lamed, Mem. We see from here that you can say 3 letters in 1 second. Great. How many letters in the Torah? 320, 674. And you can say 3 letters in 1 second, but our calculation is not accurate Because the Rambam in Hilchos Ksivas Sefer Torah writes that there are 669 spaces in the Torah. For example, Parasha Ptucha, Parasha Stuma, and the spaces also have a meaning. We have to learn them as well. So let's add the 669 to the 320, 674, and we get to 341, 343. 321,000 letters, 321, 343 letters in the Torah. Now, if our speed of advancing is 3 letters per second, so in 1 minute, 3 times 60, 180 letters a minute. Great! Not accurate. Why? Because in Eruv Nun Daled Amud Beis we learn Seder Halimut. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, goes into Ohel Moed, and he teaches Aaron the Torah. Then Elazar and Itamar, his sons, come in, he teaches them. Then the elders come in, he teaches them. Then Klal Yisrael come in, and they teach them. Says the Gemara, you see from here, you have to learn 4 times. In fact, the Maharsha over there says that Moshe Rabbeinu learned from HaKadosh Baruch Hu each thing 4 times. Chazara 4 times. Without Chazara, it's kunisht. So we don't care about Chazara. We want to know how fast you can learn the entire Torah for the first time. So take 180 letters per minute that we found and divide it by 4. 180 divided by 4 is 45. So our rate of advancing is 45 letters per minute. 45 letters per minute times 60 minutes in an hour. 45 times 60 is 2,700. 2,700 letters per hour. Give take the big number, 321,343, divided by 2,700, and you know exactly how many hours are needed. So let's do it. 321,343 divided by 2,700 is exactly 119 hours and a minute. Uh-oh. So why did Moshe Rabbeinu get stuck on the mountain for 40 days? 119 hours is not even 5 days. 5 days is 120 hours. We're at 119 hours and 1 minute. Why do you have to get stuck there for so long? Because in Tanit Ve'Eliyahu Rabba Parasha Yudches in Avodah Zarah, that we learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's daily schedule. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't learn Torah the whole day. First 3 hours of the day, he judges the world. That has enough kamin al halacha. Because if you're stuck when there's Corona and you daven by yourself, Musaf and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you should not daven by yourself in the first 3 hours of the day, because that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the world, and it's dangerous. Wait till after the first 3 hours. Halacha, Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Taf Kuf Tzadi Aleph. So the first 3 hours of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the world. The next 3 hours, he learns Torah. Then, next 3 hours, he sustains the entire world, and the Medrash it says that is Mezavek Zivugim. So you see the Ma'aseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't learn with Moshe the entire day, only 3 hours a day. So take 119 hours and 1 minute that we found, divide it in 3, and you know how many days are needed. It's exactly 39 days, 2 hours, and 1 minute. So what happened there? 39 days passed. The 40th day came. The first, second, and third hour, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging the world. He's not learning now. Then he says to Moshe, come. He comes. And the 4th and 5th hour, he's learning with him. What's left? 1 minute. But Klal Yisrael looked at the watch and said, oh, it's the 6th hour. I guess Moshe is not coming back. If they had patience for 1 more minute, they wouldn't be the sin of the golden calf. Savlanus min haTorah minayin? It says it's there, shall be patient. Because for 1 minute, they rushed the sin of the golden calf. Do you need dessert after this? For 2 weeks you don't need to, right? It's so good. This is a dietetic type of a vote. It fills you up. You're satiated. It's so sweeter than honey, but it has 0 calories. So we wait for Mashiach Tzidkenu. It could be that our request for Mashiach is what causes it to delay. What do I mean? A Yid asks for Mashiach twice a year. The end of Yom Kippur, 24 hours, we're like angels. We start singing L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. At the end of Leila Seder, we do the same. L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. So let's go behind the scenes. You know what happens upstairs? Month of Elul, we start cleaning ourselves. Introspection, Tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva. Then Yom Kippur, mamish like angels. 25 hours, wearing white. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't eat, we don't drink. And upstairs, they're so excited. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I think I'm going to send the Mashiach. But then we start singing. L'Shana Haba, not now. L'Shana Haba, I don't want Mashiach now. In 2 weeks, I have a very important business meeting with a new client. In 3 weeks, I already have a vacation set. I don't want him now. L'Shana Haba. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Mashiach. Wait a little more. 6 months passed. comes time for Nissan, we start cleaning our homes. But Radbaz says cleaning for chametz is not the chametz. The chumus is all because it's Yetzer Hara. We scrub and we clean everything. And that's a higher level of tshuva because Elul is tshuva miyira. We're afraid. Judgment Day. But at the time of Pesach, it's tshuva me'ava. There's no fear of judgment. And yet, we clean and we scrub and we erase and eradicate Yetzer Hara. And upstairs, they're getting so excited. Let's send Mashiach. But at the end of Leila Seder, after all the malachim were with us, and we're like a Kohen Gadol in Beis HaMikdash, we start singing, Leshana haba, not now. I already planned for the summer. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to the Kivrei Tzadikim. No, not for anything. I'm Kivrei Tzadikim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, again, they don't want Mashiach. Leshana haba, why not now? Mashiach, stay here with me. So it could be that the way we request Mashiach is what's causing its delay. So what do we mean when we say Leshana haba, Yerushalayim Abnuyah? We say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we want Mashiach right now. And after celebrating with him for an entire year, next year we'll be able to do what we just did without him. We'll be able to do it with him, Yerushalayim Abnuyah. Not that we want him to come next year. He should come today. But next year, today we weren't Zoiche, we did this Avodah, Yom Kippur, Lev Pesach, whatever it is, we did it without him. After being with him an entire year, we should be Zoiche to celebrate with him. That's how we should approach this, and that's how we should request. We finish with the last thought. The Gemara says in Psochim Samech Daled Amud Beis, Agrippas the king wanted to know how many Korbanos Pesach did Klal Yisrael bring, and he started counting the kidneys of the Korbanos, and he counted, and he arrived at a number 1.2 million Korbanos in Yerushalayim, Korban Pesach. Unbelievable number. What does it mean, 1.2 million? Let's do some math. Korban Pesach, you eat al hasova when you're already satiated. You're the kazait. So how many people? You can't have 2 or 3 people. It's just too much. Mistama, at least 10 people. Let's stay with only 10 people on a Korban Pesach. If you have 1.2 million Korbanos Pesach, how many people do you have? If 10 people are registered on each Korban, 12 million people. Korban Pesach is not the only Korban you bring. What about Korban Chagiga? And that you eat earlier when you're still hungry. So let's say only 4 people per Korban. If there's 12 million people and 4 people per Korban, so how many Korban Chagiga did you bring? How many? 3 million. 3 million Korban Chagiga and 1.2 million Korban Pesach. That's 4.2 sheep with 12 million people at least in Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is not Gilo, it's not Beit Vagan, it's little old city Yerushalayim. Imagine, take an aerial shot. You see white and black. Everybody with a black suit, black steimer, and white sheep. How in the world did they all fit? When you bow down, you need 4 amos. You can't go to Yerushalayim and then run out because the pastor says, Ufanita baboker ve'alachta le'olecha. You have to sleep over. How does it work? So many people, so many animals. How does it work? The answer is very simple. When your father invites you home, he takes care of the technical arrangements. You know what our problem is? For 1954 years, our father did not invite us home. He says, guys, stay in your home. I don't want you to come to my house. It's 1954 years that he says, stay home, do your Pesach there. I don't want you here. But when Mirtzeh Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Berachamav, will invite us back, don't worry about technical arrangements, because when the father says, come to me for Shabbos, he's going to take care and have a bed for everyone. We just have to daven. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will finally, he mentioned him this year, will invite us back to his house. And we'll be able to eat in a psachim, in a zvachim, in Mirtzeh Hashem. We should see, Ki meitzescha me'eretz Mitzrayim,